Great. We'll call meeting to order. Start with a roll call. Mike Ward. Here. Reed Butler.
Here.
Jen Pendleton.
Here.
Holly Harlow.
Here.
I'm Matt Benner. We'll go straight to Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are there any agenda items?
Yep, I'd like to add, after public comment, I'd like to add a section for communications. And I'd like to have the association reps from the Teachers Association, give them the opportunity to speak during that. And then we also have a staff correspondence. And under new business, talk about the room modification discussions that were discussed earlier today in the facilities meeting that we had. So I put that on new business.
Okay. Public comment. All good? Anybody?
I have a couple things to raise.
You don't count. No, sorry.
From a parent that met with me at the Y the other day. There was two things. First was related to recording. We said we weren't always recording all of our meetings. No, it wasn't, and to make sure that we were supposed to be and to make sure that we were. The second thing was they wanted discussion on putting together a budget committee to involve the budget committee with the town, the school board, possibly NPTO, to get different voices in one room and kind of hash it out. So when we go to a budget meeting like we did last year, it's not such a mess and not such a surprise to everyone. And Jake Oliver actually brought it up last year, if you remember, in the gym, and said, I think it'd be a great idea to put a committee together and kind of hash all this stuff out so there's no surprises.
That's not uncommon.
Those are the two things that I was asked to bring up.
Okay. Now, meetings being recorded though, are we required? We're not required to.
I don't think there's anything that requires, you
we-
need to have a policy that says if
We
you're
do
going to
have a
participate
policy,
virtually.
and it's
Yeah.
only if somebody comes
Yeah.
virtually. If you remember, we redid that
Right.
policy.
And all the most recent ones have been recorded.
Right.
At the beginning of the year, they weren't. When I
No.
first got here, they weren't being.
But we do
Uh,
have a policy that said only if a board member decides to go remote, and then there has to be,
If they go
so much
remote and you're going to allow
notice.
them, then it has to be noticed to the public. And you have to open it up to the public to be able to
Right.
participate in a live. You
Right.
can't just have it to the board member.
I do remember having that discussion previously.
Yeah. but
I
not
was unaware if they were being recorded recently or not.
just recently.
should have
we
been
finally-
last-
all of them,
Yeah.
last three,
I would say.
Okay.
and they will record all of them from here on out anyway.
The only thing
Maybe
we
it was
don't
the issue
record,
of having trouble finding the recording.
it may be that. I know some people
Yeah.
struggle with that. We don't record the budget workshop though. So if this group does pull together a budget workshop during the day, because South
Yeah,
Bristol's doing
workshops
theirs
don't
now,
have to
we
be
don't
recorded.
record those.
Okay.
Appreciate that. We are at
Association rep,
Oh, okay.
communications.
So, Todd, I just want to ask, does everyone have the update on what's happening?
No,
Okay, I was going to do that afterwards.
okay.
Okay.
well, he's the association president.
Oh, is this mine?
Yeah,
This is,
Oh,
it's your
okay.
this
show.
is you.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
that was staff correspondence.
It's
So, all right, so I'm glad I married a math teacher. This is Barbara. For those of you that don't know Barbara, Mike, I think you've met Barbara.
I've met her,
Holly,
yeah.
you've met Barbara. Todd has met Barbara because Barbara teaches at Jefferson. And I'm glad I married a math teacher because we figured out that I actually have 40 years here at Noblesboro Central School. And it's going to fall to 40. We were married for 40 years this fall, and I've actually decided that I will retire at the end of this year from Noblesboro Central School. So, good timing.
We're not live, so it can't be someone watching from home.
So anyway, so yeah, and it's just, I didn't really prepare anything other than like, holy mackerel, I started in 1985, June is 2025. It's been my personal honor and professional pleasure to be part of this environment for 40 years because this is just a special place. And I think those of us who are veterans here, I mean, Tamara, Paul, and I have probably 100 years here between the three of them, among the three of us, and it's just been a powerful part of my life to be here for 40 years. So, and that's that.
And that's very uncommon
Yes,
in
I was gonna say,
education now to be there that long.
longevity.
And I've appreciated, I only got to work with you for a short period of time, but I've appreciated working with you too as we've gone through this transition. So.
Come on, Mike, say something. You
I
know?
gotta choke it down for a minute.
So
Yeah.
Audrey is speaking.
Now, well, it's a board chair. I can't.
Yeah.
I've written it down.
I've given Mike a reprieve.
You-
Tamara's over there.
No, he's
Tamara's
writing it
mad.
down.
Tamara's just mad.
Okay, so I had to write this up, and I already cried over the weekend
Oh,
because my
boy.
husband's like, you can't do that with school board meeting, so here we go. So it starts out a little humorous, and then we go a little more serious, so just prepare yourself. The links are over there. We all knew, yeah, are you ready? Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
You gonna need one better, Barbie?
Okay, so we all knew the day would come when Ken finally decided to retire. He kept telling us, as long as I'm still having fun, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. When it isn't fun anymore, I won't do it. Or at least that's what he keeps saying. And last week he said, I'm still having fun. So when he came to me a few days ago telling me he was gonna retire, I wasn't really ready for this. I guess I should have known. He had definitely given me a few hints that this may really happen. Every few weeks over the last few months, he would come in with old binders filled with contracts and seniority lists that dated back to when I was in grammar school.
Oh.
We love you, Ken. And why do I need this? His response was, I don't know, just keep it in case. I kept thinking to myself, well, he's something else. Needless to say, I moved those binders onto a shelf behind my desk and probably won't look at them until I retire. Seriously, I want to thank Ken for his 40 years of service at NCS. I have had the privilege of working with him for the last 25. Ken has given the students at NCS an unmatched education that many still remember years later. Some of his students are sitting in the room right now.
Yeah, but they still owe me work. I'm getting it from you before June.
You might.
My daughter became an English major after she learned about annotating literature from Ken and fell in love with language. Students fondly remember his science labs where they drank Red Bull to test their reflexes to see if they would be improved. With
Never Red Bull.
Well, that's what Rachel's recollection was, okay? Anyway, it
She
says.
was heavily caffeinated.
She may have been. Just like Mother. This is with parental permission, of course. Ken shared his love of the outdoors with his students by providing dozens of outing club trips over the years. His tough love and humor have made a huge impact on his students, as well as teaching them respect and perseverance. He will be missed not just by the students who had him, but the faculty who know him as both a mentor and a friend. Okay, you need to take next step. Okay. I'm not done.
Getting there.
It gets worse.
You're getting there, all right.
Really excited. Yeah, right. Ken helped me step into this former role of NTA president with grace and was always there when I had questions and supported me every day. I'm glad he trusted me with that leadership role, and I am so very thankful for his continued support in everything. Ken helps us look out for and advocate for every person in the school, not just the children, but the staff, and is willing to take time out of his day for anyone. Ken is not just a colleague, but a very dear friend to so many of us. He has been here for all of us through weddings, births, and funerals, making sure that we get the support of a friend in the times that we need it. I'm not looking at you. I we have, and we'll continue, yes.
Like literally the weddings,
Yeah.
births.
Yeah, it's our thing to say,
just
yeah.
what it's been all about, you know? That's family right there, you know?
So I'm gonna finish, 3 sentences left, I think, okay? We have and will continue to look to him for guidance since he's done such an excellent job of helping us for so many years. Thank you, Ken, for everything. We hope you have a wonderful new adventure in your retirement and know that we will always be here for you. And you need to let me know when you're ready to be a senior.
I I think the honeydew list is gonna be. Hey, boy.
Anyway, Ken, we truly adore you, you know that. And you will be missed. Okay. And do we get the hug club, you know, maybe? Oh, yeah.
Last day, I'll
Okay,
pick a few people.
Okay. Anyway, truly, Ken, thank you. You're welcome.
Retirement party.
Oh, yeah, we're having one of those.
It's weird. You know, it's definitely weird. The time just went, hard to believe. It just went right by. And you got 35 years in, you know, yeah. It's just crazy.
75 years there.
Yeah.
I can tell she's younger.
Smarter too. You probably played the same card, married once. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, thank you. It is appreciated. And I can say firsthand from my son that moved here, Mason,
Yeah.
you were a big influence to him and he enjoyed having you as a teacher. So I appreciate you for that. And I'm sure you will be overly missed. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ken, for everything you've done. Not just for me, but for my kids too. School wasn't really my thing, but you made it fun, so. And it was Jolt that I drank. 3 times the caffeine. I was gonna get Mountain Dew and I saw it said 3 times the caffeine, so I went with Jolt.
This is being recorded, man. Whose idea was
The Arctic Big Boom.
Oh, my gosh. Well, Mike, I'm gonna throw a little bit your way too, because Mike came back and chaperoned backpacking trips, and I think probably at least 3, maybe 4. And what just special moments,
Yeah.
you know, it was just, what a joy to have former students, you and Seth Campbell, to name 2, come back and chaperone your own children with me on those wilderness trips. That, you know, that's what people remember. It's not just, well, and that and the chugging. But no, it's just, that's what people came away with. And, you know, Seth Campbell has been all over the planet climbing mountains, and his first backpacking trip was with me, you know, so that's powerful stuff.
Well, and it wouldn't happen, I think, without you. I mean, I've never been on any other trip like that since then. And ours was a little different,
Yours was.
but, you know, there's some kids that would never get that opportunity if you didn't do that. It's all your volunteer time. And so it's, yeah, special.
I'm out.
So
We got another one.
Can we
We
vote
have
to
another one.
decline is?
You can. It's only ceremonial though.
We don't have to accept it.
You don't have to, but he's still gone.
Trying to help the budget.
You're always looking to help.
I want to say at a time when we were young, people were choosing to enter workforce as educators. And as an example of what it looked like to pursue a career path of For instance, he could have easily chosen high finance and find himself negotiating to buy one of the beloved Philadelphia sports teams. Instead, Ken chose to teach because it was his calling. In so doing, he's changed the lives of my county of over 700 kids. It's not here, it's his. Over his career, Ken has stretched the limits of what students thought possible about themselves by relentlessly encouraging them to show up and do the work by placing the highest value on their thinking. I'm thankful that our careers paths across the
Great, me too. Thank you.
You want to share the other correspondence that we recently received?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
adding to the sad news, I have to announce the resignation of Shep Brown. Shep's last day would be December 31st of this year. This was Shep's, found out that this is his 12th year, NCS. Of course, that's going to be tough to replace Shep as well. This is what I sent out to staff this morning. I just said, in his many years at NCS, staff have been able to absolutely depend on him to keep the building clean, safe, and working efficiently. Beyond his work ethic and constitution, has he ever been sick or won a hunter coat? That's true. He's always teasing me for how long I left him.
can I just add to that? Because he is amazing when it comes to kids. You know, he always teases during the summer when we're here working, and he'll say, oh, you're getting so-and-so, and he can tell you pretty much anything about any of those kids. I mean, his heart has always been into our kids. I mean, it's into the building and making sure things go well, but he knows those kids, and it blows my mind. I mean, he can tell you about any kid. And it's just been amazing. And he's coached for us. He's done so many things for this school beyond being the head, of the facilities. And he really has done a great job. So again, another person we're going to truly miss.
Can I say one thing on that? Can we be sure that we set up some sort of exit interviews?
I do that.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
we have to talk about that.
Okay.
So are we doing a special education presentation?
We can. It's a video, and I have to pause the recording because if I don't, it'll just be the entire presentation. We blank screen, and people will think that we're not recording. So I can't display it on my computer and do the recording. So I'm gonna pause it, but it will be posted. So if anyone listening to the recording wants to see the presentation, we'll post it so they can do so. So I'm just gonna pause this right now. So that was the McKinney-Vento piece that she was talking about. She mentioned there's two schools, or the high schools, and we primarily send our kids to Lincoln or Erskine, although some do go to Madomic as well, or other places. But I have met with both headmasters, and I will say they are very receptive to trying to increase the collaborativeness between the district and those two institutions. So I had two very good meetings with them, and I plan on continuing to meet with them. So I think getting those lines of communication established is going to be very helpful. Let's see, the contracted staff, that's new. There's a lot of contracted staff that I never experienced that in education. There's a lot of things post-pandemic that I never experienced before in education, but the whole idea of contracted services, and I went to a conference in Connecticut, and it's not just here, it's everywhere. But these agencies you're reaching out to agencies and you're hiring people through the agency versus, as she said, the salary. And you have to get all the paperwork in. It's different than having your salaried staff on board. So that is a different wrinkle that we haven't had to deal with in the past. And the last one was the 3 and 4 year olds. As she said, this is year one of the cohort. There was monetary incentive to do it. They would help, the state would help with renovating rooms, things of that nature. Any of these things that roll out, I've always been kind of prone to let them roll out and let other districts experience it and struggle with it and then learn from their struggles and move forward. But there was an interesting, I was at the Midcoast Superintendents Association meeting, and there were the Rockland is doing it as well. And one of the things that was shared with me, which resonated with me, first of all, they're putting it on schools because schools have demonstrated that they can handle needs of students traditionally. So that's another reason why something else is being put upon schools, I would say. But one of the interesting things was that what they're seeing in Rockland is the sooner they get the kids, they're able to address some of these behaviors before they have those extra couple of years to get ingrained in the students. So they're seeing their behaviors actually decrease at the older elementary levels, older elementary, because of the interaction they're getting to have with students 2 years before they normally would. So I found that to be pretty interesting. That's going to be something I'm going to be monitoring as I continue conversations with those districts. So as she mentioned, I will post this on the website. I think it's in a file that was shared with you in your folder, but if it isn't, I will make sure it gets there.
So and not to interrupt you, but I will say it was. I can't find a way to open it.
Okay.
It is locked up.
I will see what I can. Yeah, she may have to share it or something. I don't know.
So it showed that it would, but it says it's not a supported drive.
Okay.
And I talked to a adjacent board member in another town.
Same thing.
And that one person said his wife's pretty savvy with the computer, and it took her an hour to get into
Okay.
it. So
I will.
I'm not savvy.
I will.
Everybody else, but-
You're savvy. I will. I'll find out about that and get it posted. So, but yeah, and if you have any questions specific to special ed, do not hesitate to reach out to Kelly. I know she's been able to attend some meetings, and she will be attending some more in the future. But if you have any burning questions, don't hesitate.
Well, the one quick one I have, so the 3 and 4 year olds, how is it determined, who determines and how is it determined if they are?
Outside agencies. So
basically the parent has to want, is that, how does?
I don't want to speak and misspeak, but
Gotcha.
I can find out how those IEPs, how those support plans are developed at those
Because
younger
unless a
age.
parent comes forward, right, they
Yeah.
won't know if they are.
Yeah, it's through, there are, and a lot of these families have agencies supporting them at younger ages. But I can certainly find out what the primary method of identification is.
Yeah, I would appreciate.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And she said we've had an issue with secondary education, secondary schools declining.
Yes.
for special ed students.
That was one of the things, Lindsay, because I've never had to experience that coming from an RSU background or an MSAD background, because you have your own high school and we're responsible for educating all our students. Lindsay has had to go to the state before to get the state to place a student. The state can place a student, but our receiving schools where we're not residential students can deny. And you can imagine that if we have an extremely high needs student who is going to require additional staffing, which we're responsible for, not the school that they go to, but if it requires additional equipment, would be responsible for that as well. But it can be additional work on that receiving school. They can say no. Knock on wood, hasn't happened to me yet, but Lindsay shared a form letter that she's had to write to the state, to the commissioner before, to get students placed.
Appreciate that.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Is Noblesville facing a lot of homelessness?
I'd have to look at the numbers. I don't know what the numbers are. I know we have one student, I think it's from Noblesboro, that was residing. I don't want to say because it's such a small school. I don't want to identify anyone, but I know we do have one student that's residing quite a few towns away. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head if it's a Noblesboro student or not.
And how does actually, is homeless technically like no roof, no matter what? Or is there a certain stipulation?
And once you're identified as McKinney-Vento, Kelly and I were having this conversation. I thought it stopped once it can continue for the remainder of the year.
It can.
Yeah.
Even if they've
Yep.
been put in housing.
Yep, which I was not aware of. But as far as how it's identified, there's a McKinney-Vento, I can share that with you too. McKinney-Vento has a list of identifying
But they
factors.
can let them have it for the full year,
Yep.
even if they don't need it?
Yep.
Well, that's good to know.
When I was just for an example, I'll use one from my two districts ago. When I was up in 58, which is, keep in mind, is up in Kingfield, I had a student down at Lewiston.
Appreciate it. Anybody else?
And if you think of anything, or anyone else has any questions, just reach out to me and I'll reach out to Kelly and myself.
Is the presentation going posted on the website?
That's what we were just talking about.
Accessible?
Yeah.
I'm going to find out what the restrictions are, what the privileges are on it. So
It seems to me,
So I actually am
Yeah.
going to stop you. There is
Sorry.
no public comment right now. I'm sorry.
no, understood.
There's plenty more to go.
we can talk after. Yeah.
So I'm looking for action.
Minutes.
Yeah, motion to approve the minutes for the November 13th meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Was that unanimous?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, chair's report. So the next meeting of the school board will be January 13th at 5:30. Should I now bring up, maybe we were talking about throwing another one in?
We've got that on the,
You do?
New
Okay,
business.
never mind. So the AOS report. Last meeting was December 5th. We kind of went over the budgets, or where we stand and what our portions are going to be. Not far from what we talked about. Actually, that wasn't at the AOS meeting. That was at the
workshop.
workshop.
But
So we had
that
a
was,
workshop
that
too.
was the last thing that, yeah.
So, yeah,
Yep.
so, and we also discussed changing cost share. So it eventually will be an equal 25 split between all towns instead of going by head count. The first year, we would do a percentage increase to remember? Does anybody remember?
I can't remember what the percentage of discussion was. Peter had it.
Drawing a blank, But anyway.
No matter what you do, it doesn't really
So
help Noblesboro that
Noblesboro,
much.
no matter what, our biggest increase, if we went to 25% across the board right now, was like 7,000 or 9,000. because we're at like 23% right now.
You're the closest.
So South Bristol's will go way up. Jefferson and South Bristol's, Jefferson, yeah, and
Jefferson and
Bristol's
Bristol's.
will go way down because they have the higher head counts. So the one good thing for us is we're going to hold pretty neutral on it. There is an increase this year, of course, everybody figure, because GSB has pulled out. So we are looking at an increase on that, which will, there is no, how do I word that? There is no, it is what it is.
And that should be a 1 year.
Right, and it should be a
A 1 year
1 year,
more.
and next year it would just be increases in like rent, maybe a little electric increase, pay raises, but no major. I think
This
you
is
know,
absorbing that 40%.
right, and that's just going to be our one big year hit. The next AOS board meeting is tomorrow night, right?
Yep.
Yep, at 6 at Central.
I don't know
No.
why this says January. That must
Yeah.
be the January meeting.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
we have one December 10th.
Yep.
And then we have a meeting before that, so the next meeting after that's January 14th.
And there's the vote will be on the 18th. I think it's the 18th, isn't it?
18th, yes, the voting is December 18th. It was going to be here. There's a basketball game going on, as I understand, so it's going to be at GSB. And that's at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Can I ask a question on the AOS meetings? Did we ever get clarification on how many board members from a certain town can come?
So I actually,
Yeah.
I will say, I looked into that and I talked with Todd afterwards. So all board members can show up. It is,
You just can't.
it is
Just can't.
legally a public meeting and you're not in there to sit on the board. So it would be the same idea as us all showing up at a town meeting. It's,
Right.
you know, so yeah, everybody in every town can show up because you only are allowed to speak during public comment.
Right, okay.
So, thanks.
And I made
I
sure
meant to
Emil,
mention that.
Emil knew that. I apologize to him for that.
I meant to mention that actually, because after that meeting, I made a phone call to the town office to have them look into it through the what is it, Maine Municipal,
Yeah,
So
to find out.
okay.
So,
Thank you.
superintendent's report.
Yeah, a couple quick things. Things that I participated in since our last meeting. I took part in an anonymous threat mitigation training. As you can understand, that would be a threat against our schools. Another thing I participated in was a QuickSight data warehouse webinar. That's a platform that's going to allow us to access our students' data. And once I am familiarized with it, I will bring it to the administrators so they can utilize it to compare our own students' data, compare our data with students elsewhere in the district or elsewhere in the region or elsewhere in the state. And that's a new platform that's being rolled out. I mentioned the Erskine visit. I just did that last Friday, although the vast majority of our kids obviously go to Lincoln, which I had already visited. Participated in a training on the new Family Medical Leave Act that Maine is implementing starting in January, or at least the generation of the funds begins in January. It doesn't actually begin for 18 months, the actual utilization. Midcoast Superintendent's meeting, I mentioned that I'd been to the one November 21st. The next one will be the 19th, and it will be in Bath, and that will give me an opportunity to see the Bath Voc Center because we have students that do attend the Voc Center in Bath. So that'll give me an opportunity. I've already been to Capital Area Technical Center and familiarized myself with that, but this will give me a chance to see the Bath one as well. Budget work continues. Obviously, we're doing the AOS budget, as Matt said, and we're in the middle of South Bristol budget right now. And Matt made a reference to setting up some additional dates because we're going to obviously begin the Noblesboro one here before too long. I did send out a correspondence sheet with all board members about inclement weather and the need to either cancel or delay or sometimes send students home early. And you and I were talking earlier, tomorrow morning looks like it could be interesting. So I did send that out just so parents would know. And I have to emphasize that it's always the parents' decision too. So if a parent ever feels that the conditions, or I've made a terrible call and we're having school and the conditions aren't safe enough, then certainly the parent is encouraged to keep their child home if they disagree with the decision. Sometimes it's just hit or miss on those. And today I participated in the Midcoast Region Curriculum meeting in Rockland. So interacting with curriculum coordinators because obviously we lost curriculum coordinator with the assistant superintendent position being eliminated. So that's something that I'm over time going to have to assume more and more of a role over. So I've started joining those meetings as well. And that's it.
Thank you. Principal's report.
highlight a few things from the report. I wanted to mention that Haley Walsh has arrived here as our USDA educator in residence. She's going to be here 5 days a week, which is nice. Last year was Sam Pierce's last year. She's been here 4 years, I believe. She's only here 4 days a week, so having someone 5 days is great. Helping out students K-8. So she's helping with duties, some individual small construction, social skill building, other assignments. And she's also been she's allowed to do 2 days a week for after school programming, which she's in the process of thinking if that's going to be. Right now she can help out some of the programs that we already have in place, but she can offer some programs. I want to highlight the Thanksgiving feast. We have 88 family members show up for that. We serve with the students throughout the building. So, Todd was one of the servers.
Not a lot of people like cranberry.
It was a delicious meal and great community event, of course. Winter concert, plug in for that. That's this week on the 12th. That. Flex Friday trimester 2 began this week in the middle level, 7th and 8th grade. We've got Coastal Cruise was here doing wilderness survival activities with students. There's an art project going on. Robotics is happening, buddies and studies, coding, and then for some students who need additional study halls. That's anything that we're offering this year, trimester 2. I added some of the updated comparisons I had for the presentation last month, where I didn't have all the data from some of the surrounding schools, but I put those on there for folks to look at. As you can see, our numbers are online with some of the other schools in the area. And the other piece I just want to highlight, 142 students. Questions?
Anybody? No? Thank you, Adam. Financial report, we skipping over that? Or you-
It's in your packet.
Okay.
Peter's provided for you. If you have any specific questions, you can certainly reach out.
Adam, facilities and maintenance.
Yeah, so facilities met right before this meeting. That's what I think for those who we meet. Facilities committee meets basically every day we have a board meeting right before the board meeting. So we talked about Shep's resignation, of course, and like talked about some. We're obviously going to be posting for that position tomorrow, and we have some ideas on what we can do potentially help out with that. We talked a little bit about the dishwasher issue that's in the kitchen, that we're going to be looking to put that onto next year's fiscal year request. The dishwashers commercial dishwashers are pretty expensive, so that's something that we have to look at. It's less months. We talked a little bit about our boiler issues. There's been some fixes already this year, but something had to be fixed, and when they were fixing it, they noticed that there was another fix that needed to happen. So those were all things that add up. Some of the new, well, I think we're going to touch on this later, but we're going to start the meeting. We talked about the upgrades to the quiet room, looking at that. Talked a little bit about parking lot project update. For this year, still looking at clearing property support at some point, and then stumping the fiscal year 26 budget. And yeah, those are kind of like the key parts of the facilities. Did I miss anything, Tom?
No, I did hear back from the gentleman from EMC. He thinks they can do the energy audit in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
So looking forward to their digging into the building.
Appreciate it. Old business, there isn't any. New business, schedule additional budget.
Yeah, this is what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
so every year, of course, we go into budget season. We end up with our meeting right before we're gonna see the committee. So I thought it might be smart to schedule an earlier one now. even if it was before the January 13th. I don't, what's the rough date? And I actually will reach out to Peter because he goes to a bunch of them. Do you remember the rough date on average we meet with the budget committee? Is it second or third week in January?
Third week of January is my recollection.
Okay, I know you go to most of them.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we're gonna meet the 13th, which is the second week. Yeah, that's the
That's the
second week
second
of
week.
January. If they're gonna wanna talk, I mean, I'm also willing to put them off a week. You know, if they push for the first, tell them we want the third. But I wanted to see what dates work for people. I know, Mike, you've got a lot of practices and scheduling and stuff. So
Right.
that's why I wanted to try to set it up.
What day were you thinking?
Whatever day works, right, for people? I mean, is there any day that specifically or night,
Before the 13th,
do you think we will have?
the numbers you need?
Yeah,
I don't know.
or maybe the week after the 13th, and then I'll see if I can, when the budget committee reaches out, I can push them off.
The week after is a lot more open for me, but
It is the
Yeah.
week after the
Yeah.
13th. So the 20th through the 24th? The 20th isn't gonna work?
you're looking the
Holiday?
afternoon,
What's that?
you're looking evening, afternoon, evening.
Evening, yeah, after everybody. I mean, I don't know, Holly, you usually aren't available till after what, 5:30-ish? Does that
Yeah.
sound close?
Yeah, 5:30's, yeah, I can whip in at 5:30, but yeah.
And Jen, is that about a time, earliest time for you too?
Yeah, you can try to squeeze in 5, but 5:30 is easier.
Yeah, no,
I
I
don't
mean,
have a game that week.
you don't,
No, no.
just
till Saturday.
practices?
Just practices, so I can.
So that Monday's a holiday.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah. So what about you, Ray? You got anything between the 21st and the 24th?
Are you talking about December?
January.
January.
No, nope.
So whatever, I guess.
What's the
works.
NCS, can I ask Adam, what's the, I've got on my calendar, 3:00 on the 22nd, NCS trail planning.
January 22nd.
Yeah,
That is postal delivery.
okay.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't know if anybody here would be there for that and then maybe just piggyback it after that, but that's apparently not.
Is there a day out of any of the 21st or the 24th that works better for anybody?
21st or 24th would be better for me because Noblesboro does have games on the 22nd and the 23rd, so I can
Okay.
watch game.
Anybody else? 'Cause-
Fourth of Friday.
Friday's better for me.
Well, I was gonna say 21st or 24th work better. I mean, the 21st is on a Tuesday instead of a Friday night.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Is everybody?
That works for me.
What
That
time?
was an adamant yeah from Holly.
5:30 or 6, 5:30?
I even on that, I could even do a 5 if that works for, like, I
Could
could
you
I could
squeeze
be
in
more
like
flexible, but 5:30
on
is
the 21st?
fine too.
Or just at 5:30.
And I'm gonna say pending weather, I would be here.
Yeah.
Right? So the 21st of January. And you said that works for you?
Yep.
And that's here.
Yes, we'll do it here.
You do it
I
here,
would
do you
reach out.
want, you don't want to do it at central office? for,
Well, actually,
In case
no, it-
Peter has,
Yeah, would the central office work for everybody?
Mhm.
we did the South Bristol one at central office, just because there might be documents there that,
He just wants to sit and see.
yeah, that's it.
That's
I want to stay in my office without a window.
Yeah, let's do central office. Yeah, of course, Peter.
Yep.
Notify him.
Just send him a calendar invite.
Good.
The Tuesday, the 21st, 5 o'clock, central office.
What do you usually budget for, block off for 3 hours or something?
What's that? 6, you think?
Hours.
Who's buying dinner?
We done at
We've done
11?
36
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is your first. No, I don't want to scare her.
I blocked off 3 for now.
Well, I guess we got to see what the budget is first, right? I mean,
So I guess it goes back to another question. Do you want to send any sort of invitation for representatives from the budget committee or NPTO to join us?
it's going to be public, so I'd send it
See
to
if they want
everybody.
to have.
Well, and that will
actually
be a
on
thing.
it.
I mean, if we have a bunch of people there, is it going to be smart to have it at central?
Don't have to have it central.
I'm just wondering if you think we'll get a lot of,
It came up last year and again this year from someone different, so I think we should.
That was gonna be my question though for you. I was gonna ask it afterwards, but that person brought up, did they come to any of the public like board meetings or?
Yes, yeah.
so why don't we switch it back to here?
Okay.
And yeah, let's, maybe if it can go out to those people, or, I mean, it's a public meeting and all of them are. Maybe I'll,
Let's see if they actually want to come and have input.
well, and maybe
Well,
I'll,
do you want them on your, do you want to create an actual budget committee? Because my previous district, we had representatives from the community, we had representatives from the Teachers Association.
are we
had-
gonna be able to do that quick?
we had more
I
than a
would
month
think
away.
so. Yeah, it's over a month out.
You're like 5 weeks out.
Yeah.
Say if we get 2 teachers and 2 from NPTO and 2 from the budget committee here,
That's about what, we had
Do you
3.
think Jake's interested?
that might give you a dozen people total.
Mhm.
I think Jake would be.
Do you think he'd come?
I think so. Yeah, if we reached out to him.
Um,
It was his idea, so.
now who, I mean, do we hash out who we kind of reach out to or not?
You can?
Or we
can
could just send an email to the NPTO and ask them for 2 volunteers. Obviously, we don't want a room of 30 people trying to weigh in because it's too much, but.
We have a pretty small PTO group, so I'm sure,
The town, you might reach out to the town. ask
Well,
them.
I was thinking about reaching
Just a
also
small
out to the
handful?
town office
Yep.
and
Ask
having
them.
Robin send out an email,
Yeah.
you know, because maybe the selectmen would like to
Right.
Mhm.
sit, or maybe the whole budget committee wants to come and get prepared, right? You know, right? I mean, yeah. Yeah, go ahead real quick.
Dale? So, having experienced last year, okay? I think anything you guys do to be totally transparent, including having the meeting not only here, but in the gym, where the people sitting are not sitting at the other end of the room, okay? Set up a U table for yourselves and let people sit close enough that they feel like they're part of the meeting, even if they're not. Okay? I also wanted to suggest that you push to have the meeting with the budget committee as far back as you possibly can. I'm speaking as a citizen, not as anything else, okay? I, for one, think that it's very important to get a sense of what's gonna happen in Washington DC on the 20th of January. What's going to happen to the Department of Education? What waves are going to be made? What impact can that have on grants? That goes into your budget. You have people who are hired and employed based on grant money, okay? You don't want to find out in June that your budget coming up in July is lacking 2 or 3 grants worth, 40, 60, 80,000 bucks. And I think personally as a citizen, that that's something that should be presented to the budget committee, that they push back trying to approve a budget. We don't have to, and again, I'm only speaking as a citizen, we don't have to decide on the town's budget at the town meeting in March. That's been set up historically, it's convenient, yada, yada, yada. There are a lot of towns that have a special meeting later. It could be pushed back to May very easily. But the last thing that you need, especially after what's gone on, and I've sat through a lot of them, okay, is for there to be a lack of clarity on where we're headed. Even if all we know is, oh my God, the Department of Education is going to be disassembled. You need to know that, because that might affect how you as a committee plan the budgeting process for Novato School.
Appreciate that. So, yeah, why don't we reach out to a few?
You want me to, I can write an email and send it, well, I can't send an email to you all because that's Warren looking at it, right? I can write an email and send it to you and see if you're good with it.
Yeah,
We
and
can
then
send
you
it
could,
to the
well,
PTO and the teachers.
well, even then, actually, I think you could send that email to Central, and Central can put their name on it and send it, and that's not a quorum, right? That way
Yeah.
everybody gets it? You good
Well,
with
if I send
that?
it to everybody, and I would just say, don't respond to it as a collective group in the
Okay, so is
email.
that all Mike would
Yeah.
have to do?
Okay.
Send it to everybody
Just say
or
this
not?
is informational.
But yeah, if you wanted to run it by,
Yeah.
right, I'm sure it'll look good, but I,
As long as the board's not conducting
I
any
can
kind of board
probably send
business.
an email tomorrow.
yeah, maybe send it even to You got Robbins at the town office?
Yes, I do.
Maybe send it to her too, just so she can make the selectmen and everybody else aware.
In your email, I would even state, this is informational only. Please do not respond.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Policies. I don't think
Nope,
we
you
have
skipped
any.
over, we had the
Oh,
room
sorry.
modification discussion. And that was if the board wanted to request bids for the room modification. So I don't know if you want to add, but to speak to it. It's a silent room
Yes.
modification that we
Yeah, so
talked about.
we have 2 quiet rooms in the SSE right now, and they're both not really super safe for how they're being used. So we'd like to upgrade them so that they're like the level of standard that is at Bristol, for instance. So I spoke to the company that did the work many years ago at Bristol. They couldn't do the work, but they gave us like what the work would be, like the scope of the work, and like potential estimate of what that would cost. So we have that information. I'm just looking to take that information and put it to RFP. Because I think the board needs to vote on whether or not we move forward with that RFP.
Yes, I think we would need to.
Peter said because of the amount of money you're looking at.
Yeah,
Correct.
the-
$25,000.
The estimated cost of the project that was sent to us was 16,000, and the policy is anything above 15,000
Yep.
has to go to bid.
Board approval.
Yeah, board approval.
This is not to take action, it's to see if there's any interest out there, because we're actually a little concerned that there may not be interest, and we may have to actually go out and recruit.
Because it is the size of the project, it's, a lot of places are just, that size of a project isn't something that places can take on. Even the company I spoke to, well, they did it because they used Arrow back in the day, they said they just don't take on projects that size. But they were willing, I was thankful, that they were willing to do the estimate. So, just want to get that rolling because it is student and staff safety issue.
Any thoughts?
I think it's good.
Everybody
Yeah.
in agreement on
Mhm.
moving forward with that?
Mhm.
Do we need to vote on that?
I would. I just said motion, I said request bids for room modification.
So,
I'll make a motion to request bids for room modification.
second,
Thank you.
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
5-0. Okay, now, there's no new policies, correct? Future board topics, that's something else.
That's anything you want me to add to any future
No.
agendas at this time.
Anybody?
Budget's probably the big thing.
Yeah, budgets, the major thing.
So, future board topics, this is more of a comment, but I know that, like Peter wanted to be able to speak to something after public comment, and we had discussed years ago about putting public comment in the beginning and having a session at the end, so that.
Bristol just did that this year.
So that people. can
Because of their
weigh in
building project.
After hearing
Yep.
context of the meeting.
Yep.
If they have something they want to say.
I can easily add another
I
one.
wouldn't
on the
be
agenda.
opposed to it.
No, I actually think that'd be a good idea,
Mhm.
because if you have public comment at the very beginning,
Yep.
people don't
So you
really
want it
understand
after
everything you're
you,
discussing.
after your old new business, put it in after that?
Yeah, I think after old, new business,
That's easy enough.
everybody good with that?
Can I ask one question about the presentation, special education?
Sure, like, if I can answer
What
it.
do you suggest for a human resource committee?
We're in initial discussions about that, so don't put me, she's just started having the conversation about that, and it's really about retention of staff. Jefferson's losing another staff member after Christmas, after the winter break. So they're actually in a position where they may have to look at tuitioning students out, and that's not cheap. So it's how do we recruit good people and how do we keep them? And she threw out an example of perhaps additional compensation, but that's just one thing. But would you like to be on that if we pull something together?
Perhaps.
Okay.
I make a motion to appoint Jen.
Second. Okay, I guess now. we need a
Executive
motion
session.
To go into
You
executive.
do.
I need a motion to go into an executive session.
I'll motion
Oh, there you go.
to go into executive session.
Second,
I will.
Mike was second.
All in favor? Appreciate it.
That presentation,
I need your check number.
that was very eye-opening. And personally, I think that that should be pushed to the select board and pushed to the budget committee, and then just posted for the rest of the world.
Yep.
With a good announcement, because that answers a whole bunch of questions on people who don't believe.
Appreciate that.
Did you have a question about
Got answered.